The News Day continues here on One News Now Business. I am Diego Castro. Here are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate fronts. Bloomberg reports that the surge in rice prices in the Philippines has sounded a global inflation alarm. The rice inflation in the country increased to its fastest pace in 5 years in August, which Bloomberg notes is reviving memories of the 2018 shock that led to the end of a 2-decade-old limit on imports. On top of that, Bloomberg also cited India's imposition of restrictions on its rice exports, which upended the market and prompted worried nations to secure supply and contain the rising cost of rice. Bloomberg writes that the situation in Manila could serve as a warning to other importers of the staple, citing an economist at the UN Food and Agriculture Organization who said that the restrictions have exacerbated price pressure. Several nations have taken steps to stem rising costs by imposing price caps in the Philippines, purchase limits in Malaysia, and a mandatory system to record volumes of stored rice. Some countries are also laying out deals for rice supply with other nations, such as the Philippines' 5-year deal with Vietnam. The country's economic team is apparently not consulted at all over the rice price ceiling. In a briefing, Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno says economic managers were, quote, shocked when the price cap on rice was issued by President Bongbong Marcos on August 31. Diokno, along with NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan and Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman, were at a meeting in Tokyo when Executive Order 39, mandating the 41 and 45 peso cap on rice, was released. The EO was approved based on the recommendations of the Agriculture and Trade Departments, without reference to the economic team. Diokno claimed the long price ceiling won't work, so it could only be in place for a month or so. The price cap took effect on September 5. Finance Undersecretary Cielo Magno was earlier terminated for speaking against the price ceiling on her social media account. Now, to address rising prices of the staple, the Finance Department is eyeing a zero tariff rate on rice imports. Secretary Diokno said they are proposing a temporary 0 to a maximum of 10% tariff rate reduction on rice imports. The proposal comes following the implementation of a nationwide price ceiling on rice last week. Diokno explained the price ceiling on rice would likely last only a month, citing its adverse effect on retailers and farmers if allowed on a longer period. Meanwhile, the Agriculture Department sees rice prices stabilizing over the next few weeks. The DA says the market will see an increase in local rice supply as the harvest season begins.
Start na use ngayon, September, hanggang early October yung peak ng harvest season para sa wet season. So the next week or 2 weeks, mararamdaman na natin yung pagdami ng locally produced na bigas sa merkado.
Lots of headlines on the agriculture front this morning. Let's bring in former Agriculture Undersecretary Fermin Adriano to give us his insights. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us on One News.
Good morning to your watchers and listeners, and good morning to you.
Yes, sir, let's get right to it. Let's start with the UN sounding the alarm on rice situation, with rice inflation increasing at the fastest pace in almost 5 years. Now, just how worrying is this current rice supply situation in our country, sir?
Actually, the problem is really speculation.
Okay.
We have enough supply, but the problem is that our inventory or stocks is quite tight.
Okay.
And so it's subject to a lot of speculations, and that's the way traders behave. We have only a stock of less than about a month this August and September. So traditionally or normally, we need that stock of about 60 to 90 days to be able to stabilize the prices. But we
Okay.
have enough supply, except that it's tight, and therefore it's subject to speculation.
So, sir, just to clarify, you're saying that the current supply that we have should not have affected the prices of rice the way it has been affecting recently.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it has been aggravated by the Indian announcement or declaration of an import ban. That created panic.
Okay.
And in the market, there are quite a lot of speculative activities. And because of that, combined with the relatively tight supply that we have, because we're in the uh, lean harvest season or
Okay.
planting season of rice, that paved the way for a lot of speculative activities by some traders.
Okay. And sir, regarding the price cap, the economic team apparently was not consulted on this. The EEO was only based on DA and DTI's recommendation. Now, sir, is this really how things usually work with regards to situations like this?
Should not be the case because you have your economic managers to give you a lot of wisdom about the principles of economics. During our term, during the time of President Duterte, we
Uh-huh.
were heavily consulted by any decision, particularly on matters on agriculture.
Okay.
We work closely with DOF
Mhm.
and the NEDA, and we even have the economic cabinet clusters, economic development cabinet clusters, to be able to harmonize or coordinate our policy positions on very critical issues. It should not have happened.
Okay.
But the things that it's already happened, the good news is that they said that it's temporary. I hope it will be temporary because, as reported in your reporter,
Yeah.
the harvest
Okay.
season is incoming.
Yes, sir.
By the end of this month, it will peak in October. If you have that price cap, it will really lead to a decline, a some dramatic decline in the palay farm gate prices. So it's not only the retailers who are the losers temporarily, but ultimately it will be the farmers because no traders are going to buy their products at 20 or above because of the price ceiling. Because you need about 2 kilos of palay to
Mhm.
have 1 kilo of rice. That
Okay.
means if it's a price at 20, immediately it's 40 pesos. That's just your capital for the palay. How much, factor in drying, logistics, etc. And uh, 41 and 45
Yes.
are not financially viable for the traders. So nobody's going to buy.
Yes, sir. And the government is currently saying that although this price cap is only temporary, the DOF could not tell just how much this will impact inflation in the long term. Do you think it will have a massive impact?
It will impact because there is a confluence. It's not just only rice that we're experiencing
Mhm.
inflationary forces. For example, the cut down on fuel production, on petrol production by Saudi Arabia, together with Russia, will lead basically to an increase in petrol prices. And we know that fertilizers, inorganic fertilizer, particularly urea, is derived from petrol products. In the same fashion that farm machines, and all of those machines are driven by fuel, and therefore the increase in the fuel will definitely drive up the cost of production of the
Yes.
farmers, not only here but elsewhere. So prices of the international market of price will be still will maintain at a higher level because of this confluence of factors.
And Secretary Jokno also said this should only be in place for less than a month. And prolonging it is unsustainable. But sir, retailers are even saying they could only last a week, barely a week. And is it about time to lift this EO? Just how temporary is temporary in your view?
For me, it should be quickly lifted because we're spending 2 billion pesos for nothing for ayuda to the retailers. 2 billion is nothing. It will not really address the losses of the retailers. And I think the DOF has come out, and this is also our position, with a better solution,
Mhm.
policy prescription, which is market-based. You just reduce the tariff or declare it zero. And therefore, because the current tariff or tax on imported rice is 35%.
Mhm.
If you remove that, the price internationally is 650. That means if you put 35%, immediately the price here is about $1,000. If you remove that, then it will only about 650. That will really depress the prices of imported rice, and therefore it will affect the local supply, particularly this harvest season, because we're near the harvest season. Traditionally or normally, we experience the lowest prices of palay and eventually rice during the peak harvest season because of the greater supply of the cereal or the grain.
So, sir, just to clarify, you're saying that temporary zero tariffs on rice is a better move?
Oh yeah, because that's a market instrument. You know, it's not a legal fiat. It's only just, you're playing with the market and you're trying to douse all the speculative activities.
Okay.
For instance, if assuming, the president immediately says that we're contemplating on lowering tariffs to 10 or removing it, I think those who bought it at a higher rate because of the 35% and stock it and put it in their inventory right now will immediately release it for fear that they will lose money as the cheaper ones, imported ones, because of the deduction or of the tariff will be sold to the market. Ako din,
Yes,
I will just release my stocks because there will be cheaper imports coming in.
that's right. That's
And
right.
that's a market kind of instrument that you can use and without really hurting so much the economy, particularly in the long run, the farmers.
And you were mentioning, sir, a while ago that of course, the harvest season is now coming, and we should see better prices of the rice. But do you think, and do you agree with our officials that it will stabilize? The prices will stabilize when this harvest starts.
For a while, temporarily during the October to November. The problem is it's not even a medium term. It's about 4 months from now. If we do not allow imports to come in, or imports are not coming in because prices are too high internationally, we will have trouble by next year. We normally have an ending stock.
Okay.
To be safe for the next year, we need about 1.5 million to 2 million metric tons. That's about 60 to 90 days of inventory or stock. If we don't import, that means we will draw heavily on local production. And therefore, by the end of the year, that local production, local harvest will be depleted. How much ending stock are we going to have? If we're going to have about 400, 500,000 metric tons, that's only good for about uh, 30 days because the daily consumption is about 35,000 metric tons. That's very, very tight. So, and then it is expected, or they're predicting that there will be an El Nino
Yes.
in the early part of next year, and that coincides with the what we call dry planting season. So there is no supply during that time. I think are going to have a problem if we are not able to allow more imports to come in to augment or our local
Okay.
supply. That's I think that's my worry. Come January or February, we need to look closely December at the ending stock, because if the ending stock is quite low, then I think there will be a lot of speculative activities by the coming year, by next year.
Well, truly very interesting insights, sir. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have. We do hope to have you back soon on the
Oh,
show. Thank you very much,
yeah
sir,
po.
for joining us. Former Agriculture Undersecretary Fermin Adriano.
Maraming salamat po din. Thank you and good morning to all.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Diego Castro. One transport group says that the government's fuel subsidy is not enough as prices of petroleum products continue to soar. In fact, another series of oil price hikes is set to take place on Tuesday. Unioil projects that prices of diesel would go up by up to 60 centavos per liter. Gasoline products are likewise expected to become more expensive by as much as 30 centavos a liter. Traditional jeepneys are set to receive at least 6,500 pesos of fuel subsidy, while at least 10,000 pesos for modern jeepneys. But for transport group Manibela, this is not enough, with drivers' total taxes reaching at least 100,000 pesos annually. Instead, Manibela is calling to suspend VAT and excise taxes on oil, as well as to repeal the oil deregulation law. This way, they said, the government will have the power to control prices of oil in the country.
Nasa almost 20 pesos po na value-added tax at excise tax na pinagsama-sama po ang ikinakarga bawat po litro ng langis. Kaya po sa isang araw po na kumukonsumo kami ng halos 20 litro, Ma'am Cheryl, nasa 400 pesos po ito o higit pa. At sa isang taon nga po, umaabot po ito, Ma'am Cheryl, ng mahigit 100,000. Tapos po, 6,500 lamang po ang makukuha ng ating mga kasamahang chopper at operators. Katawa-tawa po talaga itong pag-compute po ng ating mga nasa DOTR, Department of Budget and Management at DOE.
And those are the top business stories of the hour. I'm Diego Castro. Join us again at 2 p.m. We are One News. All sides, all the time.